The Depression actually began when the banks began to fail in the major banks in the United States. They're principally in New York and in Washington, D.C.
I had a lot of bad luck. I owe everybody money.
When they failed, this meant that people all over the country who had invested in even small amounts of money were losing every penny they had. And as a result, this meant that not only were people without funds, but they were also without jobs. And of course the situation got worse every year, because when one set of jobs broke down or the people were laid off, then this trickled down to lesser jobs so that more people were laid off. And the Depression itself affected probably hundreds of thousands of people in the United States.
It is preeminently the time to speak the truth frankly and boldly, nor need we shrink from honestly facing conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed effort to convert retreat.
When Roosevelt was elected president, he inherited this, really. It had happened in 1929. He became president in 1932. And one of the first things he tried to do was to set up a program that helped unemployed people have something to do, even if it was very simple jobs. I was one of those people myself. And I got a job working under civil service, kind of an agreement, but I was paid a very small amount of money, like something like $50 a month. But I also had access to food stamps, so I had those extra benefits that helped me with my 3 small children. Now, there were 2 small children at that time. have a car, and I had the availability of daycare in a nursery school system in the city of Berkeley that was sponsored by the city. And so the children who went there, the parents didn't have to pay much for it because it was done to provide help for the adults. Carting in the baby buggy and
Right.
walking to the daycare before I went to work. Fortunately, that only lasted a couple of years, and by that time, I was able to improve my situation by moving to San Leandro from Berkeley, and then I got connected with civil service work, and I worked briefly. I worked in San Francisco until I was able to get hired by the city of San Leandro. And in the San Leandro job, I worked at that until 3 or 4 years later when I got married again. Well, Roosevelt's programs were established so that unemployed people would be able to work at something at a minimum wage that would at least help them look after their families.
Right.
Away from big cities, they would sometimes have conservation jobs where people worked in a forest and helped trim or cut trees, and sometimes just at roadside. It would be like a cleanup service or janitorial service to maintain the roads and the edges of the roads. In the shipyards, for instance, there were probably people working there whose part of their salary came from the support that Roosevelt had in his program. To be a woman who had to go to work to support her family. And many women whose husbands were in the military didn't get a lot of income because the military salaries were so low. That, some of them were like $50 and $60 a month. So they went to work. And also, there was a shortage of men in essential defense jobs, like working in the shipyards or in the aircraft business. The year I got married was 1949, and I had heard about television, but I had never seen a television set until my husband and I moved to our first apartment in Oakland. And because we both lived in San Leandro when we got married, but we got this little apartment just before we got married. A friend of mine lived about a block away in the same neighborhood, so she invited us over for dinner so she could get acquainted with my new husband. And she had a television set. And I thought that was the most thrilling thing in the world. It was this huge cabinet that was, half the size of a refrigerator. And the screen was only about 5 by 6. But the visibility, which we had read about but had never seen, I just thought was the most marvelous thing I'd ever thought. Oh, yeah, but it took us 2 or 3 years before we got our own.
Imagine, if you will, a show so strange it shouldn't come first, because all our other shows are in order. But not this one. This is The Twilight Zone.
Now, we begin in 1949 with our first show that we would like to talk about.
It was great. They had guns and they horse.
It took place in the West, it was really the best.
And they had Tonto, and his name was the Lone Ranger. Lucille Ball married Desi Arnaz, but they slept in separate beds because it was 1950.
Oh, you sweet child actors, you all turn out so bad. But I can't help wishing that Buckwheat was my dad. This was the tale of a little boy,
And Beaver was his name.
he told no lies and he loved his mom.
And everyone thought he was lame.
Forgettable show with a great theme song.
This was a western that set in Lake Tahoe. There were a lot of characters, but I only remember Joe.
Gleason, Jackie Gleason, they ripped you off and made this show.
There are three sons, there are three sons. Then there's Dad, who has three sons. The guy from Mary Poppins got married to Mary, but not to Mary Poppins, I mean Tyler Moore.
There were maybe a couple of comedians in the evening, or they didn't have the variety of shows that they have now. And Solomon was on Sunday, and he introduced new entertainers. So I know we would probably watch that. But we didn't watch a lot of children's shows either, because I thought they were kind of inane. Was the Sunday afternoon programs that were sponsored by the cereal companies. And it was a children's program. And I thought, this is wonderful. My kids can enjoy the TV in the Sunday afternoon. It was sponsored by Kellogg. So they had a demonstration of some kind of cereal in every commercial. When they filled the bowl with dry cereal, they sprinkled it with 4 tablespoons of sugar. And then they poured the milk. And my children are only around a teaspoon of sugar. So we stopped watching that. And then I put honey on the table. I didn't have sugar anymore. I wasn't going to have a bunch of diabetic kids, you know.
Rice Krispies. Add milk or cream, that's all you do. Then listen to 'em talk to you.
Snap, crackle, pop. Mmm, Kellogg's Rice Krispies. Kellogg's Rice Krispies. Kellogg's Rice Krispies. Oh, yes, sir, kids. It's fun to eat Kellogg's Rice Krispies.